I'm curious if you've ever been on YouTube and if you've found these motivational type videos. You know, there's a lot of, there's millions of them. There's tons of them. And I'm not kind of putting them down. I'm just kind of commenting on what they are. They're usually very aggressive. They're very intense. And there's a lot of screaming. And there's a lot of really, at the same time, interesting stuff that's being said and to help motivate the viewer. And I have myself watched these videos. Sometimes they help, like if I'm working out, right? And sometimes not. Sometimes they're distracting. But the other day I was listening to one, and I was really, I watched the video. I really watched it carefully. And I realized that all these videos, honestly, every single one of them, almost all of them, are surrounded, and the images that you see are surrounded of the concepts of usually physical activity, working out, weightlifting, running, getting ready to work out, waking up early, something physical. And all of a sudden it clicked to me. I said to myself, most of the time, people that are watching these videos are really, getting into these videos and enjoy them are the people who are, say, at the gym and are working out because they themselves want to be. The people that are not watching these videos are the people who are working out, who are being kind of pulled to the gym by their trainer that they signed up for, by the nutritionist or whatever, that extrinsic person who is pulling them into the gym saying, yep, we got to be here. I'll see you at 5. Blah, blah, blah. And I realized these videos, the reason why you don't ever see any of these videos, a person just like writing or reading a book, is because, well, number one, that's not sexy. It's not the thing that's going to get views on YouTube. So the whole point of making this video is to get ad revenue. But number two, because working out and all that stuff, physical, yes, while it's hard and while this video hopefully will help us with this motivation, which we'll dig into in a second, it is easier than some of the other stuff. Getting that 10th rep on the bench press is a lot easier than reading another chapter in our textbook. Getting that last bicep curl is a lot easier than doing another set of math problems. Just is. It totally is, because whether or not you get that last rep or not, you're going to get endorphins. And at the end of the day, and at the end of the workout, you may feel tired, but you're going to feel really good. At the end of studying for something, for a test, a quiz, doing your homework, you don't feel good. You just don't. There's no endorphin rush. There's no neurochemical flood that just feels good. It's just hard. So I really started thinking about this, and that's why today I want to talk a little bit about motivation. So when you think about the word motivation, what does it really mean? Well, it's what your motive for action is. What is motivating you to do something? What is it, actually pushing you? And I think that's really a different word than inspiration. Because when you think about inspiration, it's what is happening inside of you. It's what's happening that's actually pushing you instead of you're being pulled, right? Motivation is more of a pull. Now, when it comes to our students, we got to be really careful, because when students start something, or even adults, when we start something and it's new, there's this novelty to it. I always tell this story about how one day I decided to run. And I don't know why, I just was like, I'm going to start running. I think that's healthy. I think that's good. And I was a junior in high school, and I never, ever really ran before. And I had asthma at the time. And I ran all the way to the high school, which was probably about, I don't know, a mile or something. And then I went up and down the bleachers like I thought it was like from Rocky, and then went all the way back. And this was all before school. And I was so close to throwing up. I was so overexerted, and it was just that novel thing, that spark that I got, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is going to be awesome! I'm going to do this every day," And I never did it again. So we have to be really careful of that. That initial type of excitement for something that we're doing, whether it's a new hobby, whether it's a new club we just joined, it's good to feel that way. It's great. But we don't want to think that feeling is going to last forever, because ultimately then we're going to figure out at a point, even if it's working out or even whether it's a sport, whatever it is, and there's the benefit of the endorphin rush and all that. Eventually, something's going to get hard, whether it's going to be a skill, whether it's going to be a diet change, whatever you're going to run into. There's this thing called the effort gap. And there's been numerous people that I've talked about before on this show that have touched on the effort gap. And I think we're even going to do a whole episode on the effort gap. But basically, it's that literal gap from when things are exciting to when things actually get difficult. And how much effort you have to put in is the determining factor of whether or not we're going to have certain challenges, whether or not we're going to see to the end, whether or not we're going to hit that goal, whatever it may be. So when your child or your student or whatever is really excited and really pumped about this new thing that they want to start doing, I think there are two big factors that come to play when we actually want to encourage their continuance and they want to have them see through it to the end, whatever that may be. I think it's their why, and I think it's their habits. So let's touch on the why. The why, the purpose, is a really big intrinsic motivator, right? An inspiration that we have to actually be pushed towards our goal instead of having to pull onto something. I think helping them through define their why. For me, I never knew why I was in theater. I never knew why I went out for the plays every single year and the musicals, and I never knew why. I just knew that it was fun. I liked to do it. But if I really thought through why I was doing it, there'd be all these other factors, right? I have this really awesome sense of community and family with my friends. I have this awesome outlet to express myself. I am developing skills that will actually help me through when I become an adult, whether it's podcasting, whether it's interviewing. Like, I had no idea, but all those things are way more compelling. Now, theater was a bad example because I loved it and I did really well with it and I always continued with it. But I think, for instance, trying to pass the Math B Regents. Now, that was something that I failed. I literally did not pass the Math B Regents, but that basically means like trigonometry. And I tried really hard. I took it twice or three times, I forget. I got extra help. I got a private tutor, and I tried really hard, what I think that means. But at the end of the day, I didn't have a strong enough why. And sometimes that's hard to develop in a student. But for me, if I was, say, a parent and I had my child going through the same situation, a simple why for, say, a subject in school that they're having a hard time with is the fact that you are faced with a challenge. This is a challenge, and this is practice facing a challenge. How many other times in your life do you think you're going to run into challenges? Every other day. There's going to be something that comes at you, and you are now faced with a really big first challenge in your life, and you have to figure out, are you going to use this as practice? Are you going to use this to develop your challenge-facing abilities, or are you going to let it defeat you? Now, that's a very simple, it doesn't have to be, no, you don't have to figure out a way that they're going to use the Pythagorean theorem every single day. It doesn't matter. Like, they may not. It's the whole point. And number two is their habits, their consistent actions that they take every single day to fight the when motivation is not there, when they'd much rather be sitting down and strapping on a headset and gaming, or just going out and hanging with their friends, or just scrolling through TikTok or something. motivation will not always be there, right? Especially when we talked about if it's a fleeting new type of activity and new hobby, eventually that motive for action because it's fun will be gone. So what is the habits and the routines that they've established? I'm huge on routines. It's been the biggest factor in my life. Most of the time, when my eyes wake up in the morning, when my eyes open in the morning, the very first thought I have is, I like to snooze. I like to keep sleeping. This feels really good. It's not that I am motivated to, or even inspired to get out of bed, stretch, breathe, read, do my whole thing, work out. I don't want to, but it doesn't matter because that is what I do. That's simply my routine. Do you brush your teeth every night before you go to bed? Yep, that's a routine. That's just what you do. You don't need to be motivated and inspired to brush your teeth. It's just what you do. So can you help your students develop routines and habits around this new activity so they don't necessarily need to be motivated? So that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. Hopefully this will help your students when the novelty of the beginning of the year is rolling away and we have some challenges that are facing as we kind of get this year really in the nitty gritty. If you like today's episode, let me know by hitting like, hitting subscribe, and hitting the bell notification to be notified every time I release a new video. And if you like today's episode, I definitely think you'll like this one right over here.